is a one-size-fits-all. There are many different factors to consider when restructuring a company, because each restructuring is unique. It depends on the profile of the company. It depends on the creditors, the location of the company's assets, the size, the type of debt it's looking to restructure. And if the creditors are few, then sometimes an out-of-court restructuring can be done and is preferred, while other times the company may be better off using the courts. So it sort of depends on what you're trying to restructure. Having said that, sometimes the courts can be the best or the only solution when restructuring bonds as opposed to loans. And I say this because most of these New York law-governed bonds, they require 100% consent for certain key changes to the terms of the bonds. Example, you want to change repayment terms, you want to change interest rate, you require 100% of bondholders' consent. And there is just no way you're going to be able to find all 100% of the bondholders. You may be able, and the company may be already in conversations with the big players, the big boys, the big funds, the big investment banks that are holding the debt, but there is just no way for the company to find all 100% of the bondholders, because some of this debt are held by what I like to call the mom and pops, although not all of them are mom and pops. They are probably high net worth individuals that a private bank has managed to sell the debt to. And because of the way the bonds work and contacting the bondholders, it has to cascade through the clearing systems. You just don't have, it's just impossible to find 100% of them. So if you're making changes to a document that requires 100% consent and you're not able to find all of them, then maybe going to courts is a possible solution to restructure that particular debt. And when we look at courts, I guess we have to decide which courts should preside over a restructuring of the company's debt. Do you want to restructure where the debtor sits, where he has his registered office, where its management sits, or where it's borrowed the funds that he now wants to restructure? Both in Singapore and Indonesia have their own restructuring and insolvency laws. And so an Indonesian company may ask, would it be better to restructure using Singapore courts, or should we use Indonesian courts? What are the benefits? What are the disadvantages? And we'll come to that in our discussion that will occur the second part of this session. So before we go into the lively discussion as to which could be the correct court or which should be the court restructure debt, I turn over to Michael. Michael will give us a high-level overview of Indonesia's PKPU process, followed by Mayan, who will then give us a high-level overview of Singapore's recent legislative changes and how it can be applied to foreign companies. With that, I turn to you, Michael. I thank everyone for their time. I think what's come out of this discussion is that there is no one-size-fits-all. There may be times when the Singapore court process can and should be used, especially where you have limited restructuring or you're restructuring a portion of your debt, or like I mentioned earlier, you want to just change the terms of your bonds and it's a friendly deal and you just want to take advantage of the Singapore court process to get around the 100% consent. But where a company has vastly different creditor group, vastly different debt, offshore debt, onshore debt, trade creditors, Singapore may be just one out of the many jurisdictions that company has to use to restructure its debt. And Michael, as imperfect as some people may think the PKPU process is, it has worked. It has worked successfully for some debtors in the past. And it is a useful tool to be used by Indonesian companies to restructure its debt. I mean, I think when we start with restructuring, you always want to sort of see whether it can be done out of court. And there are times when out-of-court restructurings may actually be more useful than in-court restructurings. For those of you that may have more questions, please feel free to email either one of us or contact one of us if you would like to, tell us your questions or ask us to help you with some of your process, your thought process on this issue. With that, I turn back to Catherine. I think we've got 2 minutes left. Yeah.